What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. In tonight's video, we're doing another one. We just got done with the quarterback rankings. I'm going to give you some hot running back rankings for this is a PPR-minded running back ranking. So if you play PPR, you're in the right spot. But anyways, we're going to be looking at I have on the right here, I have my tiers for the running back position. We're going to be kind of going back and forth with my running back rankings, which I have filtered here by PPR, and we'll kind of go back and forth. If you want to get access to this projection document, 2022 draft kit, it's in the description below. Check that out. It's only $15, good value in there. Access to cheat sheets, rankings, articles, my daily blog, and more. So tons of good things in there for you. But let's get going with this. If you have one of the first, second, third overall pick, you're looking at probably two running backs for sure, and it's kind of a no-brainer. It's Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. Now, I think if you are playing with that first overall pick, and I get it, it's super hard for a running back to repeat as the number one scoring running back. And Jonathan Taylor blew the field away last year, but I think we have to go back really far. I mean, there's Kamara 2020. We have to go back really far to find another running back that can duplicate the RB1. We're back to 2017 and we still haven't found it yet. I think it's Priest Holmes, like back in like 2003, maybe something like that. So it's extremely difficult for the RB1 to produce. But I think if you're looking for the safe play, it is Jonathan Taylor. I know a lot of people have, question marks around Christian McCaffrey's health. I also think it's a question of the offense. I much prefer the Colts offense than the Panthers. But I kind of view these guys as a preference call. I'm going to rank Jonathan Taylor as the RB1. I feel really safe about him getting, upwards of 15, 16 touchdowns, being involved in the passing game, and just leading that team, to a potential playoff run. So I think Jonathan Taylor is my RB1, but I totally get it. If you want to go with Christian McCaffrey first overall, please do. I have these guys tied in projections, 341, 341. So a lot of it is pure preference, I think, at this point. So I'm going to go ahead. We'll copy and paste Jonathan Taylor in there. And these guys go hand in hand. I think they're the clear top two backs. The one thing that's not on their sides is, on McCaffrey's side, I think he's older than 27. Christian McCaffrey. And I saw a stat, and McCaffrey's only 26. So that is in play there. Jonathan Taylor, I believe he's 25, maybe 24, 25. He is only 23. Wow, Jonathan Taylor is so young. I saw a stat today that the last handful of running back ones are under 27 years old. So that's a good measure. I think those two have the best odds of finishing the RB1 this year. But after that, we get into some questions. You got Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. I'll even pull up the Fantasy Pros here, which they use ESPN. Still don't know what RT Sports here is. Fantrax, FFC, and Sleeper. So a ton of averages here for us. Then they have Jonathan Taylor, McCaffrey, and then after that, they have Austin Eckler as their 3, and I can't argue with it. Eckler does come in as my running back 3, and he's really not close. There's kind of a drop-off. He is the default RB3 this year. He's in a really fun offense. I think his touchdowns last year were insanely high. The dude was RB2 last year, ended up scoring 20 touchdowns, tying with Jonathan Taylor. So he's not scoring 20 touchdowns this year. I think something more in the 12 to 15 range is doable. But again, talk about a safe first-round pick, something you don't want to bust in. Look no further than Austin Eckler. So he's our RB3. We'll keep it moving here. This is where it gets tricky because the rankings here are telling you to take maybe Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook. Those are the next 3 backs on this list here. For me, with my RB projections, I got Dalvin Cook, Henry, and Najee Harris as the next 3 backs as well, just in a different order. To me, Dalvin Cook, I'm excited about that Vikings offense, man. The defense is still questionable. I know that, but they are in the NFC North. Packers have a great defense, but the Bears and Lions do not. So that's going in Dalvin Cook's favor. And then you just got that LA Rams style coming where we've seen the Rams offense just pound Todd Gurley or pound, Cam Akers, Sony Michel. They've just pounded running backs to an elite fantasy production. So I think Dalvin Cook, if I'm looking at Cook, Henry, or Harris, I like Dalvin Cook just because, one, the offense is very fruitful as a whole, and I know he's going to catch a ton of passes. That's been kind of the word around training camp. So to me, I'm going to rank Dalvin Cook number 4. But again, at this point, we're nitpicking. I think if you have a top 5 pick, you obviously want one of the top 3 running backs. But if you're sitting at 5, 6, 7, you have to think about some of these running backs, but I think that's where I pivot and go wide receiver. But either way, I like Dalvin Cook as a late to mid first round pick. And then I'm gonna slap Derrick Henry here. Derrick Henry is my next guy. He's a top 5 running back, and we know that any week Derrick Henry is healthy, he's a top 5 running back. I don't have a problem with it. The only thing that is against Derrick Henry, I believe, it is his age and the amount of carries he has handled. He's 28. He's going to turn 29 at the end, or I guess at the beginning of January. So he is getting up there in age. Tons of volume, tons of carries. If something goes down, I think you just look to one of his backups. But I think you take the risk with Derrick Henry. He's going to be a tank. He's going to get the ball a ton. AFC South defenses don't really scare us. So I like Derrick Henry, just almost as much as Dalvin Cook. But in a PPR league, I think Cook makes more sense. But that's my top 5. After that, it gets really wishy-washy. These guys are all in a huge tier for me, starting with Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette. These guys are all really fun running backs, really good situations. We should be ranking them highly this year. Fantasy Pros does have an average ranking for Najee at 5. After that, you see Mixon, Swift, even Nick Chubb up there as well. If we go to my projection rankings real quick, I got Najee as the RB6. I don't feel great about it, but there's a lot of concerns. There was a news blurb the other day that they want to get him out there for 7 less snaps per game, which would be technically about 13% of his snap load going away. So roughly lose some of the touches. Either way, I got Najee Harris projected for 276 PPR points. Last year, he accumulated 300. So I do have him coming down a little bit. I still think he's got an outside chance to finish as a top 5, but you got to admit there's a lot of negatives going his way. We don't really trust the quarterback situation. The Steelers have arguably the worst offensive line. I have to admit, Najee is going to be number 6 in my rankings. I don't draft a lot of Najee Harris, though. He's not my favorite pick. I actually sometimes prefer some of these other PPR backs. But after Najee Harris, this is where the questions come in. And I think if you're looking for a safe pick, it's probably Joe Mixon. Mixon's going to be set for probably the best offensive line and surroundings that he's ever had in Cincinnati. They're going to win more games. They're going to run the ball more. So I think for rankings sense, we're going to put Joe Mixon here as our RB7. And I think you could talk me into taking Mixon over Najee Harris, just because, again, that's such a much better, healthier offense, better offensive line. Again, the Steelers' offensive line is going to be bad. And I just think his volume's coming down, his snaps are coming down, his targets are coming down. And I don't really trust that offense right now, whereas I do love the Bengals offense. So those are my thoughts there on the AFC North running backs. And then let's look at the NFC North running backs, because I think you got 2 awesome ones, Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift. Now, I don't think it would surprise anybody if one of these guys or both finish in the top 5 by the end of the season. These guys are both extremely valuable in PPR leagues. If we look at fantasy points per game, you're going to see DeAndre Swift averaged a lot more. He averaged 16.2 on their rankings here, but in a game-by-game basis, I think it's including the game he got hurt and a game he just got back from. So these 2 games, you throw them out. But otherwise, you see 24, 11, 23, a 9, that's fine. That's his floor. 22, 17, 28. So he's probably more of like an 18 points per game guy. So Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift, these are going to be my next 2 picks off the board. I love the second round running backs. Like, I'm passing on Najee in the first round because I know I'm going to get one of Mixon, Jones, or Swift. Easy picks in the second round. I love all those guys. And with Aaron Jones, we've seen the splits without Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones is the offense. He's going to be the Packers offense this year. He could lead the team in receptions. I think he's, going to be probably up there in the 80 target range or so. He could put in, an Austin Eckler type, Alvin Kamara type season. So Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, some of my favorite backs there. And then after that, you got this interesting group. These guys now, the reason they're all ahead of this next tier is these guys all are going to catch passes. Alvin Kamara, I know he has a court hearing at the end of September. It sounds, the more I look into it and the more I read, though, it sounds like he's going to be fine. It sounds like they're going to continue to push back that court hearing and the potential suspension to 2023. So I think you should continue to draft Alvin Kamara as a top 10, fringe top 10 running back, but he's a running back 1. Like, safe to say, look at the numbers from last year. Alvin Kamara on a points per game basis, he was RB7. So 18 points per game sounds about right. And then after that, you get into some question marks here. A lot of people still don't know if Saquon Barkley's got it. I tend to trust the Giants this year because of the new coaching staff, added effort into the overall weapons that they have on offense, and just the offensive line and the defense got better. So it's just a better situation all around in New York. And Saquon Barkley, we know he's going to be involved in the passing game, going to be the leading runner. They don't even have a quality backup behind him, so that lets you know that they're all in on Saquon. If they were nervous about him, they might have brought back Devontae Booker or something else to back him up. But it's all Barkley, and I just think he's going to be in for a bounce-back season. And then I have Leonard Fournette. Now, I have Leonard Fournette as a fringe running back 1. He's my RB12. Just because he's had a tendency to miss 3 or 4 games a year. So I think with that, I like putting him in the Barkley category because, those guys both have question and injury concerns. But you got to like Fournette to be a stud in that Tampa Bay offense. He was a stud last year. Can expect him to continue to put up, top 10, top 12 running back numbers. And those are our running back 1s. We'll go a little bit quicker now as we're going into the RB2s. And I think these guys are extremely interesting. Once you get into like the 3rd round of your drafts, you're going to see Nick Chubb. You're going to see Javonte Williams. You're going to see James Conner. These are the top 3 names that you have to look for. Now with Nick Chubb, I love the running game, but for PPR leagues, I don't love the PPR output there. I know he's going to probably be a top 15 back by the end of the season, but it's one of those picks where you're like, okay, I'll take Nick Chubb. You're not excited to get Nick Chubb. You're just a guy that's like, okay, I'll collect him. And the one guy here that I think has the most upside of this tier here is it's going to be Javonte Williams. And if Javonte Williams, last year he was in a 50-50 split with Melvin Gordon, and total fantasy points, Javonte was RB17, Javonte Williams is floor. So if you want to just secure a really good running back 2 for your fantasy roster, Javonte Williams round 3 can do that. And I guess if you start running back, Williams could be your RB3 and just be a beast for you in the flex. But if anything happens to that 50-50 split and it bounces to 55-45, 60-40 towards Javonte, you're going to see him crash the top 12. And Melvin Gordon, he missed practice today with a foot injury, so we have to monitor that. The injury seal is upon us with Melvin Gordon. So I like Javonte Williams. I might even actually take him over Nick Chubb. I could see myself bouncing him up there. And in fact, let's actually do that. I just think he's going to get more involvement in the passing game. You're also attaching yourself to the Russell Wilson-led offense versus the Jacoby Brissett, who knows how many games offense. So Javonte, my RB13, one of the best running back 2s you can find. And then we'll slap in James Conner here. I think Conner proved last year he's a pretty damn good running back in that offense. We're expecting his numbers to come down a little bit, especially the touchdowns. But, man, the dude was RB5 last year, 17.2 points per game. Looked really good as a receiving back, 15 touchdowns, not a good yards per carry, so we'll look for that to change. But I think Conner as your RB2 looks pretty good. And then here's what we're going to do. I'm going to change some of the stuff here. I'm going to put Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I think, these guys, Javonte, Chubb, and Conner, those are the round 3 targets. Now we're probably looking at, running backs in the 4th round. So I'm going to put Ezekiel Elliott there. And people, tend to knock Ezekiel Elliott, but the dude was RB7 last year. I know he only averaged 14.6 points per game, but I have a better feeling about the health of Ezekiel Elliott this year. He had the PCL thing that kind of nagged him throughout the year last year. They admitted that. The offensive line should be better, but it's what I like about it is it's a combination of the defense being really kick-ass and the lack of receiving weapons. Just CeeDee Lamb there, rookie Jalen Tolbert, Dalton Schultz. After that, there's a lot of questions. So I think you might see Ezekiel Elliott in the defense lead the team the first month and a half while they wait for Gallup and potentially James Washington to return. So Ezekiel Elliott round 4 feels like catnip. I love that pick. But after that, that's where you get some questions. I'm gonna slap in Travis Etienne. And I think for PPR purposes, you want Etienne as a running back 2 on your team. I think he can look good as a flex, but we're talking about a serious Achilles injury for James Robinson. I'm rooting for James Robinson. I think he's going to be ready, and he's going to be kind of a thorn in the side here, but you're not drafting Travis Etienne to really be a running back. You're drafting for his receiving prowess. He's going to be a guy that catches upwards of 60, 70 receptions this year. He's just going to be a really safe and consistent running back 2 for you, probably settle in the 12 to 14 points per game range. And have some pretty big spike weeks because, again, we don't expect Jacksonville to be leading too much, a lot of 2-minute offense and all that good stuff for ETN. And I'm excited about the Jags. I think we're going to see a bounce back there. So that's kind of the clear top 17 to me. After this is where questions come in. I mean, I guess I'm going I'm going to put Breece Hall and Cam Akers next, just because they're the lead backs on their team. With Breece Hall, you're kind of holding your nose because you don't know what's going to happen with the Jets' offensive line. You don't really trust the Jets to win a lot of games, but he's the first rookie running back taken in the draft. So you got to figure he's going to be at least a top 20, top 24 running back. But he's got to hold off Michael Carter. Michael Carter's not going away. I do like Breece Hall. Not my favorite fourth round pick. I think I'm still liking the receivers there. If I'm taking a fourth round running back though, it's Zeke or it's ETN, and then towards the end it's Breece or it's Cam Akers. Now I like Cam Akers, but again, he's still fresh, a year removed from his Achilles injury, and the Rams have said that they like they like Darrell Henderson still. He's going to be getting touches. You're also banking on the health of Matthew Stafford there, which isn't a guarantee. So those guys, a little bit of a question mark for me. But then we're going to get to my favorite running back too that you can get really late in drafts. That's going to be A.J. Dillon. In terms of his rankings here, I mean, he's being drafted as the RB25 off the board. Guys, last year he was RB22. He averaged 11 points per game, which I know is low on a weekly basis, but you got to admit, for a guy that has 187 carries, 803 yards, 5 touchdowns last year, all of those numbers are going up. Like, that's a guarantee. As long as he's healthy, those numbers are going to increase. Like, the running backs in Green Bay are going to be the focal point of the offense. They're already trying to find ways to get A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones on the field together. Expect more A.J. Dillon in 2022. And then he proved last year he's a damn good receiving back. So he does have a nice, floor of, 3 or 4 targets per game, maybe more towards 3 targets per game, but I still see upwards of 2 to 3 catches per game and just very productive as a receiver. And if anything happens to my boy Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon's a league winner. He's a top 5, top 10 running back on his own. So that's my top 20. After we get outside the top 20, it's where it gets interesting because you have some interesting guys here: Cordero Patterson, Chase Edmonds, Tony Pollard, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery. A lot of these guys are good backs, but I don't know if I trust them. I'm gonna put J.K. Dobbins as my RB21. And I know he's coming off a serious knee injury, but he's beating the timelines and things. He's back to practice. He's going to be ready for week 1. I think J.K. Dobbins could be a guy that looks pretty good this year as your running back too. Another player here who will throw in, I think we have to throw Elijah Mitchell in here as the RB22. Last year, Mitchell was he was RB26, but on a points per game basis, he averaged 15 points per game, which would have ranked about RB16. So he's not a big pass catching guy. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant to draft him, but I do think he's a safe and steady running back too when he's healthy. And then after that, I got questions on Damian Harris. We don't know what's going on with Ramondre Stevenson, the pass catching role there. His touchdowns are coming down. I like Damian, but I have questions. I have questions with Jacobs, Gibson, Montgomery. All these guys are kind of in position battles, and they're more of they're the first and second down ball carrier, but they're not going to get a lot of passing work. Who knows about short yardage work and 2-minute offense work? So to me, in a PPR format, I want Chase Edmonds. They showed what they think of him. They paid him. He was the first player to sign in free agency when that opened up. You think about the coach there coming over from San Francisco. They're going to find a way to get him the ball in space. Probably upwards 3, 4, 5 catches per game. I like Chase Edmonds a lot as a running back too. And then this is a tough one for me. I kind of want to put Clyde Edwards-Helaire here as my running back too. He's still the top back there on the depth chart for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know Ronald Jones is there as the 2. You have Jerick McKinnon as a pass catcher. And a lot of news about Isaiah Pacheco, the 7th. Was he undrafted or 7th-round rookie? But I still think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's the RB1 in the Chiefs offense. That should be fruitful. And last year, in a weird committee season, Darrell Williams was still RB21 last year somehow, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being RB44. So I'm willing to put a bet on Clyde Edwards-Helaire being a top 25 back. And then after that, again, I still have questions on all of these guys here. I do like Tony Pollard. I love the role. Last year, Tony Pollard, where was Tony? RB28. And we know he's going to be more involved this year. He averaged 10.4 points per game. It's kind of it's like an A.J. Dillon light situation where, 10 to 12 fantasy points per game as your RB2. If you want to whip him out there, or your flex, and then if anything happens to Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard could be a total league winner. But let's take a peek here at my projections. I want to see what we're missing here. I do have Cordero Patterson up there. And then we'll get to some of those running backs that I was nervous about. So let's go ahead and throw Cordero Patterson here. It doesn't feel great, not my favorite pick, but I just know he's going to be used as a pass catching guy. And then I think we have to kind of small chunk all of these backs here. I'm going to go ahead and put David Montgomery as the top guy. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to put Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs as the top 2 options. I know that they're the first and second down backs there. Again, I don't feel great about them. These guys are total, this whole group is total boom bust flex material. I'm not going to feel safe with these guys in there as my RB2. Montgomery could be nice, but he's got a lot of negatives going his way with Khalil Herbert showing out in camp, the second worst offensive line in the league. I'm nervous about that offense being helpful. Antonio Gibson could be a nice first and second down back, but he's not the pass catching back. He's not the 2-minute offense back. He might not even be the goal line back. So question marks abound there. And then Jacobs and Harris, you're just hoping to fall into the end zone. But let's keep it moving here. I think I have to put Kareem Hunt and Devin Singletary here at the top of my 30s. Again, these guys are all, after Tony Pollard, this group that I have highlighted here, they're all going to be fringe RB2 flex plays. I'll even throw Miles Sanders and Rashad Penny in there. I don't feel great about owning any of these guys. If they're my RB3, that's fine. You can kind of ride the hot hand when you need to. But I think I actually like some of these guys in this next group here. And that's give me Ramondre Stevenson at ADP over Damian Harris. He goes a little bit cheaper. Give me James Cook over Devin Singletary. He's going to be the pass catching back in that pass happy Buffalo offense. And then all the reports out of Indianapolis are Nyheim Hines is the real deal. I might actually, we're probably going to see Nyheim Hines finish as a top 25 back. Let me go back to 2020. Nyheim Hines, RB18. And then in 2018, Nyheim Hines, where is the slippery man? Nyheim Hines, RB28. I think that's your range. You're probably looking at him finishing somewhere in the 20s and 30s. So in reality, I want Nyheim Hines over all of these backs. I would take Nyheim Hines up right after Cordero Patterson or Tony Pollard. I think he's that good this year. He's going to be flirting with 60 to 70 receptions in that offense. I love him. Melvin Gordon's another guy here, catnip for the coaches. They like getting him in there. And then I think you should really strongly consider taking one of your favorite pass catching backs. Here we go. We have Rachaad White. Again, at the top of the show, I mentioned Leonard Fournette always missing 3 or 4 games a year. Rachaad White is the clear RB2 there, really great pass catcher in college. Kenneth Gainwell, I think he's another guy along with Nyheim Hines that I want to move up my boards. I keep finding myself, I want these guys on my bench in PPR leagues. Like Kenneth Gainwell, give me Kenneth Gainwell over Miles Sanders at ADP because he's going to be the potential goal line back. He's going to be the 2-minute offense back, and he's the third down back. He's the pass catching back for Jalen Hurts. So that seems to be a lot of fun. And then let's keep it moving here. Darrell Henderson in a committee with Cam Akers. If Akers doesn't look like himself or he re-injures himself, Henderson can be very nice. It sounds like Dameon Pierce is the running back to own in Houston. And then we get to this is the backup territory. I'm just gonna, I showed the top 50 here. Let me actually just kind of paste all these guys in here. But these guys are just end of your bench pieces that you want to be patient with. Handcuff territory: Kenneth Walker, Alexander Madison, Tyler Algier, Isaiah Spiller, Khalil Herbert, James Robinson, Rex Burkhead, and then I'll just shout out some names here that I like because I got the top 50 covered. But Carter, he's still going to be a potential RB2 flex play. Sometimes we have to wait and see how that goes. Jamal Williams, kind of the same thing. He's gonna get touches, but his value will go up insanely if DeAndre Swift gets hurt. Jerick McKinnon might be the best pass catching back in Kansas City. Same thing with Kenyon Drake. He might lead the Raiders running backs in receptions, and Chris Evans is going to be the receiving, I think, third down, 2-minute offense back for the Bengals, and just a lot of buzz about some of these guys here. So I want to throw out one more name here as the guy to watch. That's going to be Benjamin. They've been pumping the hell out of him up in training camp. He might even carve out a little Chase Edmonds type role for himself, being a third down kind of back there. So that's going to do it for the running back rankings video. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Check out the quarterback video. I'm going to be completing the running or the receiver and the tight end video either tonight or tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you are new. All that good stuff. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good night. See you guys. Peace.